All right, let's dive right into this explainer where we're going to break down the entire life cycle of enterprise data by building what we like to call your impenetrable data fortress. Now, if you work with complex enterprise systems, you already know that managing data isn't just about storing it somewhere and forgetting about it. It's really about protecting, optimizing, and thoroughly understanding that data at literally every single stage of its life cycle.
So right off the bat, we have to ask ourselves, without strict governance, does an organization's most valuable asset actually just morph into a sprawling liability? Think about it. As systems grow and business needs inevitably evolve, unmanaged data silos, unused custom fields, and unintentional duplicates just pile up. And what happens? Well, it slows down system performance, massively inflates your storage costs, and ultimately, it completely erodes user trust.
I love this quote from the Salesforce customer service group because it hits the nail right on the head. Before we can even think about protecting our fortress, we actually have to know exactly what's inside it. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. Think of data profiling as the enterprise equivalent of going to the doctor for a health checkup. You wouldn't let a doctor prescribe a treatment without a proper diagnosis, right? So we really shouldn't start cleaning, enriching, or migrating data without first examining how our fields are actually populated.
Okay, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to move from laying the foundation of data understanding all the way to fully optimizing our data vault. We'll hit profiling your data landscape, the shared responsibility model, the 4 specific layers of data access, navigating global privacy laws, handling backups and archives, and we'll wrap up with the actual truth about duplicates.
Starting with Section 1, profiling your data landscape, which is the foundation of your fortress. This is where we perform that vital health checkup on the system to establish a baseline for our cleanup.
To really understand why this matters, take Luna, for example. She's a data architect at Northern Trail Outfitters. When she needed to reduce technical debt, she quickly realized that manually piecing together individual reports and writing Apex scripts was just way too complex. Her CRM had been running since 2017, meaning she had dozens of abandoned custom fields. Doing this manually would have literally taken weeks. But by using automated data profiling solutions that analyze entire datasets at once, she could look at aggregate metrics across her whole metadata structure instantly. A real game changer.
So tracking these specific metrics lets you confidently retire unused fields. For instance, by looking at the field fill rate and the default value ratio, Luna discovered 84 fields on the case object that had literally never been used, plus another 25 that hadn't been touched in over 2 years. Because she had the data, she could confidently mark those fields for deprecation, simplifying her data model and lowering that technical debt without any guesswork.
Moving on to Section 2, the shared responsibility model. Now that the foundation is set, we're building the walls and figuring out who is responsible for what. Think of this exactly like living in a secure apartment building. The cloud provider secures the gated entrance and the lobby, but you are still responsible for locking your own door and securing the valuable assets inside your private apartment. It's crazy, but too many organizations assume that just being in the cloud means their data is completely immune to loss. And guys, that is a really dangerous misconception. The divide here is actually pretty straightforward. The platform provider protects the underlying infrastructure and ensures the system is available. But you, the customer, have to protect your actual records, your metadata, and defend against user errors. So, if the server goes down, the cloud provider fixes it. But if one of your users accidentally runs a mass update that overwrites hundreds of critical client records, yeah, that is your responsibility to fix, so you need the right tools in place. Let's jump into Section 3, 4 layers of data access. This is all about guarding the vaults and implementing the principle of least privilege. To stop something like a hiring interviewer from accidentally deleting a job application, or worse, viewing sensitive social security numbers, we apply these 4 sequential layers. First up, you secure the organization level with login hours and IP ranges. Then, object-level permissions say, okay, interviewers can read applications but absolutely cannot delete them. Next, field-level security hides specific data, like a candidate's required salary, from that interviewer. And finally, record-level security ensures they only see the specific applications assigned to them, not the whole company's applicant pool.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. We handle this by locking down the data completely with org-wide defaults first, setting them to the most restricted user. If there is even one single record a user shouldn't see, you set the default to private. Period. Then, you selectively use tools to open access back up. Role hierarchies let managers see their team's work. Sharing rules grant lateral access, like letting an IT panel see tech applications. And manual sharing covers those one-off temporary vacation coverages.
That brings us to Section 4, Navigating Global Privacy Laws. Because data security isn't just a good idea, it's globally mandated by frameworks like GDPR.
You've got to know your role here. A controller determines the purpose and means of processing personal data, while a processor acts solely on their behalf. So, your organization might be a processor when a customer submits data to you, but you're actually the controller for your own employees' data. Knowing this distinction is huge because it dictates your service-level agreements and proves you're complying with principles like data minimization and accuracy.
Section 5 is backups, archives, and purging, the vaults, and the incinerator. Basically, how we handle massive amounts of historical data. Because let's face it, not all data deserves to live forever.
Remember Nina, an admin at Cloudy College? She panicked after a mass update accidentally overwrote a bunch of prospective student statuses. For her, having an immediate backup totally saved the day. But a true long-term strategy requires distinct archiving and purging policies too. Backups are your safety net for immediate recovery. Archiving is actively moving stale data out of your main system so you free up storage, but you keep it accessible for audits. And purging? That's the incinerator. Permanent deletion once legal retention periods expire. You never purge early, and you definitely never use backups as an archive.
To put the value of archiving into perspective, look at the massive storage savings Luna discovered. Out of 2 million cases, only 200,000 were actually needed for daily operations. That's just 10%. By archiving the other 1.8 million records, she drastically sped up the system's reporting, slashed expensive storage costs, and still kept full compliance since auditors could still view those archived cases directly in the platform if needed.
Finally, let's dive into Section 6, the truth about duplicates. We're going to challenge a really common assumption here about keeping your system tidy. Are all duplicates bad? You might assume that a perfectly clean system has exactly 0 duplicate records, but the reality is actually a lot more nuanced than that. Yes, bad data entry that creates 3 different spellings of the same company name is terrible for your business, for sure. But aggressively merging every single overlapping record can sometimes destroy valuable business context.
It's all about context. We have to distinguish between unintentional duplicates from bad data entry and intentional duplicates that we keep for compliance. For instance, separating an employee-maintained customer record from a self-service Experience Cloud record. If a business is both a customer and a supplier for you, keeping those records separate might be strictly required for access controls. Instead of blindly merging them, modern architecture uses unified profiles to give users a single contextual view while safely keeping the underlying records properly separated.
Well, that wraps up our journey through the data lifecycle. I really hope this explainer helps you evaluate your own management strategies and encourages you to assess the actual strength of your data fortress. From profiling your landscape to strictly layering access and properly archiving your history, it takes a deliberate, ongoing strategy. So take a hard look at your systems today. Do you really understand what's in your vault? And more importantly, are you sure it's truly secure?